Welcome back. Today we're talking about more about shellstars, specifically the course offset. If you recall from video 25, this is the shot geometry table. Down here we have our triangle that we talked about extensively in video 25. And we know that our crossing vector magnitude right here, combined with the cosine of our course offset angle E right here, will give us this segment of the rate of closure calculation. And then this segment here, plus this segment here, will give us our total rate of closure. Today, we're just going to be looking at this angle right here to calculate the AB portion of the rate of closure. So we have our course offset up here. We have our course offset angle down here. These numbers are not actually part of the table, but this is what they actually represent. Now, if you recall, this is our crossing vector magnitude. This is our course offset angle. Over here is our muzzle velocity magnitude and our aim shift angle. These two items here, the segment BC and this segment AB, combined form the rate of closure. I drew it this way, separating out the two triangles to show that they do not have to be attached. It's very confusing sometimes to show them attached like here, which is how it's traditionally drawn, because it gives the impression that this line right here that connects the attacker, which is purple, to the target green, this much form the entire triangle when it actually doesn't. Technically it would, because the crossing vector will come out to about here, muzzle velocity comes out to about here, but this crossing vector represents 1 turn's worth of movement, and this muzzle velocity represents 1 turn's worth of flight for the projectile. Those combined will give us the rate of closure. And because triangles are similar, because you can expand it and contract them, as long as all the internal angles are the same, they'll give us the same result regardless if we do measure per segment or per turn or across 20 turns. They'll still give us the same rate of closure. But anyways, we'll be talking about this triangle specifically here today. This triangle we'll talk about in a later video. So first, some definitions. We have our course offset, which is the difference in AVID windows. Remember, this is our AVID. We really haven't seen much of it lately. Between the direction that the target is heading relative to the attacker, also known as the crossing vector in the game, and the direction the attacker sees the target. Don't worry, we have lots of examples coming up to cover this. The course offset angle is simply 6 minus the course offset times 30 degrees. So as the course offset of 6 is 0 degrees, course offset of 5, 30 degrees, and so on. We get down to a course offset of 1, which is 150 degrees, and a course offset of 0, which is 180 degrees. Again, how this actually looks, we'll be covering in extensive detail. But first, polar bears. Say you're standing still, and there's a polar bear heading south. Now, if the polar bear is to the north of you, it's coming right at you. However, if that same bear is to the south of you and it's still heading south, it's heading away from you. This is the basis of the course offset. So here, we have the polar bear that's southbound. He is to the north of us being the attacker in this case. So if you look at the avid, we're not actually on the avid. This is to simply show that we're in the middle of this compass. So we see the polar bear to the north of us. We put the polar bear's direction of travel here because it's heading south. Again, polar bear is to the north, but it's heading south, so we have a 6 window offset. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Here, the polar bear is heading south again, but we see him to the south as well. So again, from our perspective here, sitting in the middle of the globe, the polar bear is to the south of us. The polar bear is also heading south, so we put that same direction in the same window, and so our course offset is 0. Let's say we see the bear off to our east. So the bear is here in direction BC, but it is still heading south. So our course offset is 1, 2, 3. Now here's where it starts to become a little bit non-intuitive. Now we have the bear heading south by southwest, right here, and we still see him to the east. His course offset is 4, because as we put the various markers on the avid, the bear's direction of travel is south by southeast, south by southwest. So that's right down here. And we see the bear to the east, which is over here. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4. Course offset of 3 here again, because we see the bear to the west by northwest, but he's traveling south by southwest. The bear's traveling this way, we see him that way. So on the avid, we see where we see the bear and where the bear is traveling. Now let's look at those same examples from the polar bear's perspective. Here we're putting the polar bear in the middle of the avid. Again, he's not at 90 degrees straight up, he's in the middle of the sphere. From the bear's perspective, as he's heading south and we see him to the north, the bear is heading south, he also sees us to the south. So the course offset angle is 0 because we are in the same window. So from the bear's perspective again, he sees us to the south and he's heading south. The course offset of 180 degrees, which is this example over here, the bear sees us to the north and it's heading south. So obviously that's a 180 degree difference. Course offset at 90 degrees. No, the bear sees us to its west and it's heading south. So that's a 90 degrees right there. And here's where things become more intuitive for this particular case. The bear is heading south by southwest and we see him to the east. So the bear, he sees us to the west, but he's heading south by southwest. So it's obviously a 60 degrees course offset because his course is 60 degrees off from our direction. And here we have the bear that's west by northwest and is heading south by southwest. So from the bear's perspective, he sees us east by southeast and is heading south by southwest. So that's 90 degrees right there. Going through the exact examples again, side by side. So again, bear heading south. We see him to the north. From the bear's perspective, it's a 0 offset angle because his direction of travel takes us right towards him. From our perspective, we see the bear to the north, but he's traveling to the south. So southbound bear to the south of us. From our perspective over here, we put the two symbols in the same window. But from the bear's perspective, they're 180 degrees apart. And again, these are hopefully self-evident. Here's the where it is. It's easy to see this one's more intuitive than this one, because the bear's direction of travel is 60 degrees off from where he sees us. So as you see, that matches up pretty well with the image right here. Whereas over here, we see the bear this direction, the bear is traveling this direction. Yeah, the symbols are the same, but when you look at it, try to figure out, puzzle all together how it goes in your head, it just becomes, it's pretty non-intuitive. And hopefully this one's 90 degrees, 3 windows, pretty self-evident. So why do we do this from the attacker's perspective? As we look here, these are the exact same thing. This is very obvious what's going on. The bear is traveling 60 degrees off from our course. Because if the bear was heading this direction, it'd be 0 degrees heading right towards us. He's off by 6 degrees. Both of these angles are from the same origin. over here, we have this angle right here, which is from our origin as the attacker. However, this angle down here is technically from the bear and not us, so it doesn't make a lot of sense to put it right here, because it kind of hides what's going on. What this does, however, it makes calculating the aim direction a lot easier. Remember, this whole process of the shellstars system is not designed for transparency, is not designed to show you what's going on. It's not designed to give you any sort of real intuitive understanding just by looking at where the symbols are placed on the various play aids. It's designed to calculate three things: the rate of closure, impact window, and launch window. It's that third one where doing it from the attacker's perspective makes it a lot easier because we can then calculate where our aim window is. It's so much easier that I have no clue where to put this symbol onto this avid. Because while we can draw, from the bear's perspective, our location and the bear's direction of travel, I cannot calculate where the bear would see our aim be relative to the bear. I don't be like over here in EF. I have absolutely no idea. Whereas by combining the two frames of references, the frame reference of the bear, which is this symbol right here, as you can see, it's the same on both avids, with our perspective where the bear is located, by combining these two, we're able to get this third bit of information out of the composition. Now, this next set of slides, we're going to be talking about how it actually looks in terms of geometry. So again, we have our rate of closure triangle down here. And if you recall from previous videos, specifically number 25, that the rate of closure is made up of two parts: this AB segment, which is calculated from this right triangle, and the BC segment, which is calculated from this right triangle. And today we're only concerned about this part of the triangle right here. So in our diagrams, the bear is going to represent point A. Yeah, it's the A is under the polar bear. Trust me, we don't lift them up to show you. The A is there. Point B is right here. This is where the purple line intersects this line that represents the rate of closure. Or actually, it's the flight path of the projectile. Part of what, and we measure our rate of closure upon it. The blue arrow is our crossing vector. It's always going to be pointing towards BC or east. And if AB is on the black part of the line, it adds to the rate of closure because our speed is being directed towards the attacker, or the polar bear speed is being added towards the attacker. If it's on the red part of the line, it means the polar bear is heading away from the attacker and therefore subtracts from the rate of closure because it will take longer to reach the target. So this first example right here is our course offset of 6. This is the polar bear heading right towards the attacker. Hopefully it's obvious we'll be adding in the full magnitude of its crossing vector into the rate of closure because it's heading right towards the attacker. So again, course offset angle of 0, so it adds 100% in. From the polar bear's perspective, it looks like such. From the attacker's perspective, it looks like this. So this is the best time to actually launch a projectile at the polar bear, as its full crossing vector will be added into the rate of closure. Course offset of 5. So as you can see over here, polar bear is still heading towards BC, but it sees us, the attacker, down in direction, that'll be what, C? And so it's a 30 degrees difference. From the attacker's perspective, it sees the polar bear off in direction F, and the polar bear is still heading in BC, so that's 5 windows. If you look at the geometry right here, we can see, this line forms the right triangle, and with 30 degrees, we know that 90% of the crossing vector will be added into the rate of closure. This AB segment right here is 9/10 the size of this arrow. Course offset of 4. Again, nice 60 degrees right here. And 4 windows when looked at from the attacker's point of view. As you can see here, this segment's growing smaller, and it's only half the size of the crossing vector. Course offset of 3, full 90 degrees. So, yeah, it's pretty obvious what it looks like on here. And hopefully it's obvious that because this is the flight path of the projectile, that by the bear heading this direction, it'll neither add nor subtract the projectile's rate of closure. Now we flip over the top of the triangle. Now the polar bear is heading away from the attacker. So from the polar bear's point of view over here, you can see that it's 120 degrees. From the attacker's perspective, the polar bear and its direction of travel are only 2 windows off. So it's a course offset of 2. And as you can see here, it's heading away, so it'll be subtracting its rate of closure. It'll be subtracting the magnitude of the crossing vector from the rate of closure, and it'll only be about half the crossing vector magnitude. It will be exactly half, because cosine of 120 is 0.5. Course offset of 1, as you can see here from the polar bear's perspective, now it's a good 150 degrees as it's heading away from the attacker. From the attacker's point of view, the polar bear and its direction of travel are 1 window apart, so course offset of 1. And so we'll be subtracting 9/10 of the crossing vector magnitude from the rate of closure, as this part of the line right here is 9/10 the size of this line. So that's how fast we're heading away from the attacker. And finally, hopefully it's very obvious when we get to 180 degrees course offset angle right here. Yeah, we're subtracting the full crossing vector magnitude from the rate of closure as we're zooming away from the attacker. So its projectiles will have to travel that much faster to catch up to the polar bear if it wants to hit. Well, that's the course offset in exhaustive detail. If you have any questions, please leave a comment down below. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up. If you'd like to see more videos like this, please subscribe to the channel. I try to post content 5 days a week at about 11:15 New York time. Other than that, have a nice day. Catch you later.